Hello, it's February 19th, 2014, and we're going to talk today about welcoming everybody to the beginning of the end of even the pretense of free media. Ran across a story over at the ACLJ where it asked, why is the Obama administration putting government monitors in newsrooms? They go on to say the Obama administration's Federal Communication Commission, the FCC, is poised to place government monitors in newsrooms across the country in an absurdly draconian attempt to intimidate and control the media. Now, just in case you think this is just coming from them, who it's actually coming from is an op-ed by Ajit Pai, who happens to be a Federal Communications Commissioner. He was nominated by Obama on May 7, 2012, was confirmed unanimously by the United States Senate on May 14, 2012, and he was sworn in for a term that concludes on June 30th, 2016. So what you're going to see here isn't coming from the political right or the political left. This is coming from somebody in a position to know what's going on. And he took to the Wall Street Journal for an op-ed. The FCC wades into the newsroom. Why is the agency studying perceived bias on coverage choices for the newsrooms? News organizations often disagree about what Americans need to know. MSNBC, for example, apparently believes the traffic in Fort Lee, New Jersey is the crisis of our time. Fox News, on the other hand, chooses to cover the September 2012 attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi more heavily than other networks. The American people, for their part, disagree about what they want to watch, but everyone should agree on this. The government has no place pressuring media organizations into covering certain stories. Now, this came out on February 10th, 2014, but remember, the Obama administration has been controlling the media. This is just more blatant. August, we saw that CNN reporters were worried about access to the president and to the stories that they could be getting if their organization reported on things that the White House would prefer them not to. Access is a very serious consideration when it comes to stories that could adversely impact a show, correspondent, or network's relationship with the administration, a campaign, or any political leader, one source with insider information told Mediaite. I would suggest it's not an accident that those who have been given a lot of access to the president have generally been AWOL when it comes to stories that might reflect poorly on him. The source, who did not wish to be identified, continued. It's the name of the game, and it's bad for everyone trying to do this job the right way. So, they've been doing it for a while now, but now it is more blatant. So, let's take a look at what they're planning on doing. He says everyone should agree the government has no place in pressuring media organizations covering certain stories, but he says the Federal Communications Commission, where he is a commissioner, does not agree. Last May, the FCC proposed an initiative to thrust the federal government into newsrooms across the country. With its multi-market study of critical information needs, or CIN, the agency plans to send researchers to grill reporters, editors, and station owners about how they decide which stories to run. A field test in Columbia, South Carolina is scheduled to begin this spring. The purpose of the CIN, according to the FCC, is to ferret out information from television and radio broadcasters about the process by which stories are selected, how often stations cover critical information needs, along with perceived station bias and perceived responsiveness to undeserved populations. First off, who determines critical information needs? That is up to the media. That is why we are a free media. We're not Iran, we're not North Korea, we're not China. We're not a state-run media, or at least we weren't. Welcome to the new age, the Obama age. And perceived station bias, doesn't that really depend on what side of the political aisle you're on, whether you see bias or not? And then the perceived responsiveness to undeserved populations. Again, who determines who's undeserved and who's deserved. How does the FCC plan to dig up all that information? First, the agency selected 8 categories of critical information, what they consider critical information, such as the environment, economic opportunities, and it says here that it believes local newscasters should cover. Once again, it is not, there is a separation here. Free press, freedom of press is guaranteed under the Constitution. And what they're doing is they're trying to intimidate these people by putting monitors in here. It plans to ask station managers, news directors, journalists, television anchors, and on-air reporters to tell the government about their news philosophy and how the station ensures that community gets critical information. The FCC also wants to wade into office politics. One question for a reporter is, have you ever suggested coverage of what you consider a story with critical information for your customers that was rejected by management? Follow-up questions ask for specifics about how editorial discretion is exercised, as well as the reasoning behind the decisions. Participation in the critical information needs study is voluntary, in theory. Unlike the opinion surveys that Americans see on a daily basis and either answer or not as they wish, the FCC's queries may be hard for broadcasters to ignore. They'd be out of business without an FCC license, which must be renewed every 8 years. This is not the first time the agency has meddled in news coverage. Before critical information needs, there was the FCC's now defunct fairness doctrine, which began in 1949 and required equal time for contrasting viewpoints on controversial issues. Though the fairness doctrine ostensibly aimed to increase the diversity of thought on the airwaves, many stations simply chose to ignore the controversial topics altogether rather than air unwanted content that might cause listeners to change the channel. The fairness doctrine was controversial and led to lawsuits throughout the 60s and 70s that argued it infringed upon the freedom of press. The FCC finally stopped enforcing the policy in 1987, acknowledging it did not serve the public interest. In 2011, the agency officially took it off the books, but the demise of the fairness doctrine has not deterred proponents of newsroom policing, and the CIN study is the first step down the same dangerous path. The FCC says the study is merely an objective fact-finding mission. The results will inform a report that the FCC must submit to Congress every 3 years on eliminating barriers to entry for entrepreneurs and small businesses in the communications industry. This claim is peculiar. How can the news judgments made by editors and station managers impede small business from entering the broadcast industry? And why does the CIN study include newspapers when the FCC has no authority to regulate print media? Should all stations follow MSNBC's example and cut away from a discussion with a former congresswoman about National Security Agency's collection of phone records to offer live coverage of Justin Bieber's bond hearing? As the consumer of news, I have an opinion, but my opinion shouldn't matter more than anyone else's merely because I happen to work at the FCC. So folks, this is not coming from one side of the aisle or the other. This is coming from somebody in the know. He knows what the FCC is trying to do, and we are about to lose even the pretense of a free media. This is a blockbuster, and I'm amazed it has not been getting nonstop coverage, because as the picture I had up at the beginning shows, propaganda. You control the media, and the media controls us, and we're about to be controlled. So it's time to understand alternative media is the new wave, because alternative media is the only media you're going to be able to get all the information that you need, that you determine is critical. You can weed through it. There are stories in alternative media that's not for everybody, but at least everything is out there, and it's left up to the reader to determine what to believe, what to research more, and what to discard. I would rather have everything than what the government tells me I should be listening to and watching and reading. Have a good day.